you were a big supporter. You signed off on the Oak Street Protected Bikeway. For you, why are protected bikeways important for the city?
I think one of the biggest things is safety. There's actually been some very serious accidents right in this area, fatalities from bike accidents. And I think that the protected bikeway has a safety element that is really clear. That's for bikers, and sometimes trucks and other vehicles are forced to get out of the way, move around it, and that's a really important feature. But not only real safety, but also perceived safety. So this is going to help people feel more comfortable biking, and they'll get on their bikes and they'll do their commute on a bicycle. But also, it's even things like commute time. So the University of Minnesota is right down here, and there are thousands of people who bike there every day and want to bike home, and many of them connect right here to the pathway on the Mississippi River, and so this gives them a really clear and good shot getting there. Oak Street's also fairly busy with traffic, so having the protected bikeway here really makes it a much better commute line right over there to campus. And eventually we're going to hopefully connect this over to the Dinkytown Greenway, which also has a protected bikeway and then an off-street facility that's just amazing. So this is a small piece of a network that could make a really big difference.
Great. Your ward, just tell people a little bit about where your ward is and some of the bikeways that are really important in your ward and some of the other things that are coming down the pipeline in your area of the city.
Well, I represent the 2nd Ward, and the University of Minnesota kind of sits in the middle of that, and the river also goes right through it. So there's a wonderful bike facility along the river, but I'm also lucky enough, I think, to have a couple of the best bike facilities in the city. We have the Dinkytown Greenway that I already mentioned, and what's really exciting about that now is it goes all the way under the 35W bridge now. We completed that tunnel right into downtown Minneapolis and hooks up with a bike path on 2nd, and so it could go to North Minneapolis and beyond, and that's amazing. And the other end of the ward, I have the Midtown Greenway, where it comes and ends at the Mississippi River and goes through there, and that's another fantastic facility that can take you right to the Hiawatha Trail or out to the western suburbs, and I ride that, and many people ride that, so that's key, and that's really important. When we do the bike counts, I'm often really excited because there's spots in this ward that has more bikers than ever, and one of them that always hits the high point is the Franklin Avenue Bridge there. And when the Franklin Avenue Bridge is redone, it's also going to have a protected bike facility that I think is going to be just incredible. It's going to have the pedestrians separated from the bikes, separated from the cars, and there's going to be a sort of a curb separation thing there that I think is going to be great. We've also got the 10th Avenue Bridge that's slated for rehab, they call it, and I'm hoping that we'll get some improvements there, but there's a lot of bikers there, again, using that to cross the river and head to the U or to northeast. So I'm excited about it, and it really means a lot to my residents to have good bike facilities. I'm also pushing for more bike boulevards, and I'm trying to find the way we can use our complete streets policy that we're now drafting to help us identify some streets that actually can become car-free streets. There's growing interest in that. You find on blocks here and there, and they talk about it. It's a hard stretch to get to for a lot of people because they want to have access to their home, so bike boulevards is kind of a compromise, but I think there's some potential that we can actually identify some streets that could become car-free, and the residents there would welcome that, and then they could also become fantastic bike facilities.
Sure. You have the Milwaukee Avenue in your ward, right?
Yeah, I do.
It's already, and this is the idea of the North Minneapolis Greenway, or maybe even a South Minneapolis Greenway.
Yes, so, correct, absolutely. Yeah. So I have spent a lot of time driving around and imagining, well, could this be one of those streets? I wonder what these people would think if they had this opportunity. And sometimes they call me and say, what would it take to get us a car-free, just a 1 block long street or something like that? So there's interest, and we'll see. One of the tricks is trying to time it right so you're following the interests and the readiness of the public as you're moving forward with these issues and bringing forward.
We're at kind of the start of the Oak Street Protected Bikeway. Simon, why don't you just kind of explain for folks kind of the genesis for you of how this design came together, and talk about some of the kind of the key elements that we can see here.
Sure. Well, the Oak Street Protected Bike Lane project is only a couple of blocks long, but it's a really high demand area. It's identified on our bicycle master plan. It has been for many years, and we've also included it now in our Protected Bikeway update to the bike master plan. So the project itself is only about 3 or 4 blocks long, at least what we've implemented in 2015. But it includes some new treatments along the way. and a design that's relatively new to Minneapolis. It's a two-way protected bike lane going from the East River Parkway Trail to Washington Avenue. So that means that bike traffic is all on one side of the street. It resembles a lot of our trails that are already around town. We have almost 100 miles of trails that look very similar to this. So we kind of tried to replicate that feel with this project. Right here you'll see that we have these white posts, these white delineators. That's kind of been our standard for protected bike lanes across the city, and we did use a lot of that with this project. But for this one block between Fulton and the Parkway, we did try out a new type of separation to keep bike traffic separate from motor vehicle traffic with this concrete curb. And it actually originated from a kind of a maintenance perspective, a maintenance request from our staff, because the posts, while inexpensive and easy to install, are oftentimes difficult to maintain, with sweeping and winter maintenance. So this curb is designed to be more efficient, designed to be easier to maintain in the winter. But we've also heard a lot of good feedback from people because they like that increased physical separation.
I want to ask a particular question about the concrete curb. So this is the model that we see in like Montreal and a lot of European cities, and we kind of see as the ideal of having a physical barrier. And so, are we going to be able to move in this direction on other streets? Do you think that there will be interest, even from maybe a maintenance perspective, to upgrade from the posts and other streets as well? Just talk about that a little bit, and are there cost concerns or other things with doing that? Why is this the first time we've seen it on a protected bikeway?
Well, protected bikeways, even though there's a lot of them now in Minneapolis and a lot across the country, they're still a very new idea, and we're learning exactly how to build them and the best way to build them on different types of streets. We've been using the white delineators. A lot of other cities have been using those because they're a low-cost option. And then there's several tiers you can go up from there, and maybe the top tier is really creating an off-street trail, like what's going to happen on Washington Avenue downtown. That's usually best implemented with an actual reconstruction project of the street. Here there was really no other maintenance of the street going on. It was a standalone project. So that's why the delineators are an attractive form of separation. The concrete curb is, it's more expensive. So I don't think we'll see that used all across the city quite yet, but we've been hearing some positive feedback from it. It has our maintenance staff say it will be easier to maintain, and we'll get a flavor of that this winter. So I think we'll just watch it for the next few months here and through the winter to see how it works out, and based on that evaluation, you may see it elsewhere.
Well, that's good to hear. Before we're right at the intersection here with River Road. I just want you to just talk briefly about any plans or what you guys are thinking for how it connects the protected bikeway to the River Road protected bikeway. Can you just talk about that for briefly?
Yeah. So this does connect to the trail along the river here. What we have installed are zebra crosswalks that enhance the existing crossings. So the thought was that a lot of bicyclists will make two-stage turns using the crosswalks to get onto the existing ped ramps. We do see a lot of people, cutting across, but we did want to provide the crosswalks to facilitate this movement for folks who may be a little more timid crossing the parkway.
Here we are at an intersection, which I know is maybe the most questions come up about two-way protected bikeways at intersections. And I just want Simon to kind of explain what the city's doing about safety at intersections, and even what questions and concerns from a design perspective you had to think about. So why don't you just talk about that a little bit?
So protected bike lanes, for the majority of the block, they provide physical separation between cars and bikes, and a lot of people love that. But just with a normal bike lane, we still always want to focus on intersections, because crash data from Minneapolis shows that most bike crashes are occurring at intersections. So at the intersection of Oak Street and Fulton, We are using our standard green markings through the intersection to really highlight the bike path to drivers and also provide guidance for bicyclists going through the intersection. One other thing we're looking to do at this intersection is take advantage of the signal operations here. For southbound Oak onto Fulton, there's actually a left turn phase, and if you're a bike coming up on the bike path headed north, you're basically sitting at the intersection and there's no conflicts. So Public Works is looking to install some bike signalization here for bike traffic that would run concurrently with the left turn phase. It's not up quite yet, but we hope to get that in later this fall. We also provided some increased separation with delineators here. You know, we typically space delineators every 30 feet or so to really keep drivers from turning into the bike lane at intersections. We use more of a picket fence, increase the frequency of the delineators too.
Why don't we just talk here, Simon, and then we'll finish up here with we're not at it, but talk about the Washington Avenue and Oak intersection and some of the particular challenges that you faced there and how you addressed those.
So the 2015 project is only about 3 or 4 blocks long, going from the river to Washington. In our protected bikeway update to our bike master plan, the protected bike lane will actually run all the way up to University Avenue. It'll go on University Avenue and really hug all of the East Bank and then head across the 10th Avenue Bridge to the West Bank. So we had to find a way to make the 2015 project work for now until we're able to continue it north of Washington. And if you use the facility on Oak at Washington, you'll see that we installed a 2-stage turn box. So we know a lot of bike traffic is headed west on Washington, so having the protected bike lane on the west side of the street works pretty well for most folks. But if you want to continue north on Oak, at least for the next year or so, until we continue the facility north, we provided what's essentially a 2-stage turn box. So you cross to one corner and then you continue north on Oak like you would on a street without a bike lane on it. So.
Do you want to talk about how the early plans for putting in a protected bikeway on University Avenue it goes from like Oak to 10th Avenue Bridge, you said?
Yeah. The city conducted a feasibility study of how we would actually fit all of these protected bikeways into our street network, and the preferred concept at this point is to have a 2-way protected bike lane all along University from Oak to 10th Avenue. Currently there's a 1-way eastbound bike lane, but we know there's just such high demand bike traffic along the edge of campus there that we really think a 2-way facility would work well along campus. There's a lot to figure out still. It's still several years out, but we think that would really facilitate the demand that's already there.
And I just want to end up with one kind of evaluation-related question. So, we hear people who really love Oak Street, and we hear people that are concerned about Oak Street. And the primary concern is around safety, especially at intersections. What evaluation work are you guys doing for new protected bikeways as they come in to look at things like how many more people are biking on them, and what is safety numbers looking like?
So with all bike projects, we do some form of evaluation. The city has its bike and pedestrian count program. We'll actually be doing our citywide counts next week, and we're going to be counting along Oak here. So I'm really excited to see what those numbers will be, even though it's only been open for a few weeks here. We do monitor crash data to see if there are any safety problems at intersections. We also, since a lot of these projects are nuanced, myself and other staff do get out and conduct observations, especially at some of the intersections, to see exactly how people are maneuvering through there and using the facility, because everyone interprets it maybe a little bit differently or uses it a little bit differently, and want to see how people are actually using that, and where we can make refinements or make changes to projects that are going down in the future.
Great. And then one final question for Oak specifically. We've heard some reports, not regular, but periodic reports of people parking in the protected bikeway. What is the city doing around that particular problem?
So with Oak, we do have offset parking. So if you're parking along Oak, you won't actually park against the curb on the west side of the street. You park on the other side of the bike lane, and that's fairly unique. We do have a couple other locations in the city with that, but that type of parking is unique. So we have alerted our traffic control division about this, and with all new projects, we let them know about the changes, and we try and be a little bit nice at first. Allow people to adapt to that change and educate them about that. But if we continue to see problems, we'll really step up enforcement and partner with traffic control on that.